guys, this is Grace and welcome to my channel and welcome to a layout share video. So if you are new to my channel or you're new to this series, basically every so often in the year 2025, I'm going to share with you the layouts that I'm creating for this specific challenge. The Scrapbook Generations has a Facebook group. They used to have a brick and mortar store in Missouri, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, now they just gone to online store. So they are an online scrapbook store, and they have a very active Facebook group, and they put out a lot of challenges. And so this year they are doing a 52 layout challenge, basically one layout a week. And so I've been, as you can see, consistently doing it. Now, I have to be honest with you, in the month of June and July, I think I didn't do them right on that week. I kind of skipped because I had vacation time, and that's totally fine. I mean, if you want to jump in now, you can still jump in. You just have to, work your way into doing all of the challenges. A couple of things that I love about this challenge is that it's 52 weeks, meaning that because of my schedule and the season of my life right now, if I can make one layout a week, then I feel fulfilled. So for me, that just goal of making one layout a week really resonates with me. So I like that, right? Low key, like I don't have to make 10 layouts this week, or, when you have virtual crops, you have to make all those layouts within the weekend or something like that. Like, I don't have to pressure myself with that. So that's one thing I like. The second thing I like are the prompts, because even though I have been creating for many years, I would say I've been scrapbooking for at least 21 years. It's still nice when an idea is presented to me versus that I'm thinking about it, or I'm trying to think of a new way for me to do the things that I normally do. So those are the two things that I really like about it, is an outside prompt, and also that it gets me to reach a goal of at least one layout a week. Okay, so enough of that. I just finished week 31, so I'm filming this in the beginning of August, and I believe I have 11 pages here. So I'm going to share with you what I have created, and also kind of talk about the prompts that was used for that particular week. Okay, so the first one, this is week 20, and the prompt was flowers. And another thing that I want to let you know is that I'm working on travel photos. I have been traveling every summer for the last, I think, 5 years now. And so my pictures for those travel have accumulated, and so I'm slowly working my way. These are actually pictures from 2021. We went to Orlando, and one of the things that I wanted to do was go to St. Augustine, because I love history. I love being able to walk through history, and kind of it makes history come alive for me. And so St. Augustine is the oldest town in America. That is because it's a port town. A lot of the Spaniards went there, and so that's why it's called St. Augustine. It has cobblestone roads, and there's a lot of different places to see, different museums and things like that. One sorry one particular place that we went to was a historic site, and this was their fort over in St. Augustine. It has been hit by, because of wars and things like that, and so, but it was really fascinating. So I just picked my most favorite pictures from that visit, and then I put it on my layout. And flowers, so as you can see, this page has a lot of photos in it, and I wanted that, because I wanted to remember the pictures, but I also wanted to add a little bit of embellishment. So I just used the two corners of my layout and then slattered it is that the word? They put all my flowers on each of the corners so that it would at least have the accents in there. There's textures in there as well, but then still the main focus is the photos. Okay, so now we go on to layout number 21. It is textures and that means that you're going to combine rough and smooth. So for this one, again, this is my Orlando trip. I had 5 photos, and what I did was, you know those papers from, I believe it's Simple Stories, or maybe it's Echo Park, one of those where you have, I think it's Simple Stories, where you have a paper and one side of it has a bunch of 2x2s. So I cut those up, and then to kind of add the rough texture, I did distress the edges of that. And then for smooth, I have, like, you know, the smooth stickers. And then I also have the title is glittered, and so there's kind of that rough texture there. The mattes also I consider as soft or smooth, and so that's kind of how I combine that. So this was fun. I liked having the pattern papers in the background, but then in small doses so that it doesn't take away from my photos. And then of course you still have your photos. I didn't want to cover too much of the squares, and so I made my journaling on the side here on a vertical, and so that's how it's going to be. So now we go on to layout 22, and the prompt here, which I am very grateful because I'm trying to remember. Okay, it goes like this. I'm very grateful because I think this is one of those weeks that it was really busy. The prompt is finish unfinished projects. So I think it was like maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago or so. Remember that year or that season of scrapbooking where everybody was creating pre-made layouts? Basically, you create the layout without any photos in mind, and then the idea is that later on when you get pictures, all you have to do is slap them on the layouts. I tried that. This layout was a result of that. I have learned from that's not how I scrapbook. Like, I want to be able to start with my photos because a lot of the color combinations, a lot of the feel of my layouts start with the photos that I have on hand. So having the finished page before the photos just doesn't work for me, but I still kept those layouts. So this is one of those layouts where it's basically made, and then I just added some photos. So if I were to do this layout again, of course I would pick different elements to go with my photos, but it worked out with my 4x6, so I'm just going to keep it that way. These are pictures of our family. We are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and this particular time my daughter went to the temple for the first time, and it was a very special memory for our family. So I have the pictures of temple here, and then afterwards, of course, we celebrated with devouring a Korean feast. We have this restaurant that we love in Aurora, Colorado called Tofu House, and they have some really awesome Korean food, and so that's what we did to celebrate. Okay, the next one, the theme for this one is twine, thread, or ribbon. This is one of my favorite layouts that I have made so far in this 52-week challenge. Again, this is from the 2021 St. Augustine trip, and this one is like the outside of the fort. So the previous layout that had the flowers, that one was for the inside of the fort, this one's for the outside, and I just did a very simple design. But what I love about this is that I added the twine. So what I did was I punched out a circle and then added a bunch of adhesive on there, and then started in the center and just kind of worked my way around with the different twines. Yes, you will use a lot of twines, but if you are like me, which you've been in this hobby for a long time, you have a lot of twine to spare, so I wasn't too worried about that. I did add this scallop ribbon too, and I believe I finished that ribbon in this particular layout, so I'm happy about that. Okay, next one is polka dots. So what I did was I went to my scrap stash and I just found all of the polka dot papers that I could find in my different scrap folders. I divide my scraps into colors, and so I just went through and pulled out all of the polka dots that I can find. So this is the result of it. I did add some like flowers, but it has dots, so I counted that. And as you can see, I wanted to make sure that I had a variety of color, because I feel like that's the only way that you can differentiate one polka dot from another, is if they're different color. I also added some that are kind of embossed gold, and again, that is my way of being able to differentiate each one of them. And then I added some pen lines into there. I'm not quite, I know that stitching on your layout is gorgeous. I've seen it many times, and I do admire the people that do that. I just don't have time for that. I don't want to invest time in stitching, so I do these pen lines instead. And I also went through my element stash, my embellishments, my 3x4 cards, anything, die cuts, anything that would maybe have some dots to it, I pulled out. Basically, these are pictures of my husband and his cousin's son, and they were just grilling over in the resort that we were staying in Florida. Okay, the next one is 25 of something. So these are pictures of my youngest, not this year's Pinewood Derby, but last year's. He actually won first place. And so what I did for my 25 was I did 25 pattern papers. So if you can believe it, there's actually 25 different kinds of pattern papers here. The circles, they are layered. So like one pattern paper layered underneath another pattern paper circle, and then of course this is a pattern paper, these are pattern paper. So when I say 25 different kinds, some of them of course are repeat, but I counted them as one. So it's not like 1 2 3 4 5, no, because there'll be more, but there's 25 distinct designed paper in this layout, if that makes any sense. I also added pattern papers, cut them out. Like these ones are from pattern paper, I cut that out. This one is from a pattern paper, cut that out. This one as well, this word as well. So take my word for it, there's 25 different kinds of pattern papers on this layout. Okay, next one is little circles. So they wanted us to use little circles. It could be like enamel dots, it could be brads, it could be rhinestones, pearls, nouveau drops, whatever small you have. And so what I did was I created a big circle, just traced the big circle, and then I went to town with my brads, with my enamel dots, with some circle stickers. I even have some wood over here. So I just kind of went to town and created a frame around my photos with the circles. So I love this. These are the reason, this is the reason why I do these kinds of layouts as well, because then I can use my supplies, and some of them I end up using up, which makes me happy because then it gives me an excuse to buy new ones, right? So I like this challenge a lot. Okay, next one, okay, so we're now on week 27, and it is a half of something. And so I decided to do a half of a sun here. And what I did was I actually got a scrap of paper and cut out a sun ray so that all my sun rays will be even. And then so I would just trace that template that I created behind the pattern papers. I used all scraps here, and then of course I cut a big circle, and I did distress this one just to kind of give it a little bit of design. And then I put my photos kind of vertical and horizontal, making it seem like the sun is going to all of the photos. These are photos of mine and my daughter's hike. We went to Garden of the Gods one day, I think it was like a Memorial Day. My husband and my son went fishing and we went hiking, and so these are the photos of that. And I also pre-printed my journaling already with the date, and then I just added a few more things. Also, this is half because what I did was I punched out circles and then cut them in half to make my scallop border. Okay, the next one is 10 photos or more. So these are my pictures. I used I don't know if you remember, but I bought the mystery box from Simple Stories, and this is one of the kits that was in there. Not quite a big fan of the color scheme, but I love how they had these little embellishments, so I actually used up all of the embellishments. 20 years ago, that scrapbooker Grace 20 years ago would not have done that. She would have hoarded every single one of those die cut pieces in a little pack because she wanted to save it for the next wonderful layout that she's going to make, but the 20-year-old scrapbooker Grace, does that make sense? But 20 years later, Grace, she just wants to use it all now. So that's how I tackle, or that's how I see scrapbooking now. That's how I perceive it. Okay, anyways, so there are, I believe there's like 11 photos here. And I did use a sketch. I believe this is one of Alison Davis's Scrapbook Generation sketch. So that's that. And then this one is 29, and the prompt here is the word July. So they have different kinds of elements, tools, products, techniques that you're supposed to do that corresponds with the letter J, U, L, and Y. So what I did was I used jet black. I used uplifting, which is I used some foam adhesive here. I used labels, and then I used a yard of twine, and I did use a yard here. So I had a yard here and then a yard here, and I could say that I did measure that, so I know that that's a yard. And then these are just pictures of one Christmas when we had some friends over and we did the nativity scene and had Christmas dinner. So I printed up the pictures smaller, 2x3, which worked perfectly because then I was able to make a collage over here. And then I have 2 3x4 with the whole group. So I love that. And I did, so what I did, I stamped the labels onto white paper, cut them out, and then used them as accents there and also over here. Okay, so now we go on to 30, and 30's prompt was paper strips. So they gave you different measurements of paper strips. It could be a 1/4 inch, it could be 1/2 inch, 2 inches or something. I just grabbed some scraps of papers from my scrap stash and then kind of created my background here with all the vertical papers going down, and then I put my 2 4x6 photos in the middle. Now this title, or these cutout letters, actually I made a layout, I would say 4 years ago, 3 years ago, where I actually cut this out of the cardstock, or the big 12x12 cardstock, but then backed up the negative space with some acetate so I can make a little shaker element on my layout. So because I took out the positive, this has been sitting in my kind of die cut stash, and so I finally used it up, and that makes me happy. So I have 2 photos here, and then my long journaling that just tells our family what. Now it's my youngest that had to go to the urgent care because I have to tell you, if you have kids, like, I am familiar with urgent care in my town because all my kids have gone to urgent care. I believe my husband went to urgent care as well, and so did I. So we're very familiar with that kind of service. And then the last one is the prompt is cool color combo. So you can do neutral, you can do warm colors, you can do cool colors. I did cool colors because I don't normally do that. I actually gravitate more to warm colors. I know that about myself, although I do like mixing both warm and cool, but I don't really do just cool colors. So with this one, I actually went with more cool plus neutral colors. So my background is purple, but then I have a lot of like muted greens, and then like blacks and pinks, and then just a lot of cool colors, and then neutrals. These are pictures of a little historical museum that we went to in Missouri. This is our trip in 2022, and as you can see, I made a collage over here, 8 3x4s, and then the rest of them are kind of scattered on this side. And then because the display was about wedding dresses, I pulled out a very old Simple Stories wedding collection, and then used a lot of the elements here, papers and elements and whatnot here, because I really don't have any wedding pages to do anytime soon, so I just decided to do it over here. So those are my layouts for today. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave that in the comment section below. Please let me know too in the comment section below which one of the layouts was your favorite, which one inspired you to create your own version of that layout. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.